Okay, greetings once again, guys, and welcome to another edition by iCampSA. In this edition, we are going to be looking at the 2024 November exam, paper 2. Our focus will be on question 2, which is a statistics-based question. This is the final exam paper that was written by the class of 2024. So let's go ahead and cook. Question 2, the statement reads, the cumulative frequency graph, which is called the Ogive curve, shows the time taken in minutes for 60 employees, very important, to travel to work each morning. So 2.1, we are required to estimate the median time or the median travel time. Okay, so let's go ahead and deal with 2.1. So they want us to figure out what is the median time. So essentially, we need to figure out what is Q2 equal to. So we know that the position of Q2 is given by half of n plus 1, where the n is the total number of employees, it is 60. So we can find the position of Q2 by simply doing half of 60 plus 1, which is going to be, so that is just going to be 61 divided by 2, and that is going to be 30.5. And remember, this 30.5 here speaks to the position. Speaks to our position. So I'm going to go and look for 30.5. Okay. Now, if we observe carefully, you will see that we have 30 and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So meaning we are going in steps of 5s. So 30.5 is very close to 30, sorry, we're looking at 30.5, yeah. So 30.5 is just as good as being on this line here. Okay, so let me make it straight. So it should be moving somewhere just below the 31 line, okay, and it gets there. And then we can now go down, and it looks like we're moving down with this line here. Okay, that one. Okay, so that is what we have, guys. And what we can do is we can quickly put in some numbers here. So if you look carefully, you have a 60, and so if you observe carefully, we have 10 spaces here. So if you do the counting, it's going in steps of 2. So this means we have 62, 64, and then round about 66. Okay, so that is what we end up finding. So at that point there, we are at 66. So we can now go ahead and write our final answer. As you can see, we found 66 here. Okay, so I'm just going to say our median. And remember that whenever you're writing the exam, they usually give you an error margin. So they will say maybe between 66 and let's say 67, okay? Or maybe from 65 to 67. So here, what we're getting is 66,246, yeah. So our median is about 66 minutes. Okay, so I hope that this does make sense to you guys. Then next, let's figure out what is the lower quartile. So with the lower quartile, it's very easy, 2.1. So what we are trying to figure out is what is Q1. But we know the position of Q1 is given by 1 over 4 into n plus 1, which will therefore be 1 over 4 into 60 plus 1. So which will give us, let's see, so you have 61 divided by 4, which gives you about 15.25. Okay, so let's make some space for this. So you have 15.25. So I'm supposed to go at 15 and see what is happening there. Okay, so let's go ahead and have our line at 15. So 15 is round about here. Okay, and we can go down. Right. So if you observe carefully, you will see that this one here, in fact, maybe I use the much more thicker line. Let's delete and use a very thin one to just see if we can get a correct reading. So we have 15.15, so that is just below. Remember how this works is you have a 1, 2, 3, so that is just close enough to this error, to this line here. Okay, then we can go down. Right, and you will easily be able to see that what we have here is what, remember it's steps of 2, so 42. So what we have there is 44, okay, and that is your Q1. Okay, so this here was our Q2, then here that is our Q1. So we can therefore conclude that our Q1, let's make this to be bold, our Q1 is 44. Okay, so let's have a look at Q1. That will be 44 minutes. So let's go ahead and have a look at the estimated interquartile range. So that is 2.3. So this was actually 2.2. So they are looking for the IQR, interquartile range. But remember your IQR is given by Q3 minus Q2. So now I need to ask myself, what is Q3? Because I actually need it as part of my solution here. So let's go ahead and see. So your Q3 will be at 75%. Okay, so we'll have 60 plus 1, which will be equal to, so you have 3 over 4 into 60 plus 1, which will give you about 45.75. Okay, and remember guys, it's very important. What we have here just tells us the position. It's in the cumulative frequency axis. Okay, we want to map what we see on the horizontal axis. Very important. So let's go ahead and look for 45.75. So that is very close to 47. Okay, so sorry, it's very close to 46. So if you look carefully, we have 45, 46 is this line. So we are very close to this line. Okay, then what we can do is we can go down now. See, and let's see if we can pull this one just slightly down, round about there, and you will see they meet here. Okay, so let's go and see what is the corresponding Y value here. Now, if you observe carefully, you'll see that this value here is very close to 84. Okay, so this one here is very close to 84 because we're moving in steps of 2. So what we can do, that is very small. See, so what we found there corresponds to 84. Okay, and that is our Q3. So we can therefore assign Q3 to 84, which then makes our calculation easy, our IQR, because it's going to be 84 minus our Q1, which we found to be 66. So our IQR will simply be, our Q1 we found as 44. My apologies. So we find our Q1 is 44. So if we do the difference here, you'll see that we are finding 40. This 40 here is our interquartile range, IQR. Okay. So I hope that this does make sense to you guys. Then we are told, let's go to the next page. So we are further told that the minimum and maximum times are taken for an employee to travel to work are 5 and 120 minutes respectively. Then they ask us that on a scaled line in the answer book, draw the box and whisker diagram and indicate the distribution of the data. Okay, so this should be a very easy question, 2.4. So we are given the minimum to be 5 minutes. We are given the maximum to be 120 minutes. Remember, what we are trying to figure out is the box and whisker. And for the box and whisker, we need the 5-number summary. So we want our box and whisker. So, and then we need Q1, which we found is 44 minutes. We need Q2, which we found as 66. And then Q3 was founded to be 84 minutes. Confirm. Yeah. It was founded to be 84 minutes. So with all of these, we are good to go and draw this box and whisker. Okay. So we need our scale to move from a minimum of 5 up until we get to 120. Okay. So let's quickly put up our scale here. Right. And what we are going to do is we are going to move in steps of tens. Okay. So we're going to have 0, 10, say 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Okay. So that is what we are going to have. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And then we have 110, then 120 there. Okay. So we can go ahead now and put up our specific points. So what I have there is going to be a 5. Okay. And then between 40 and 50, I'm going to put 44, which is just going to be somewhere close to the middle. Okay. So I'm going to have 44. Then Q2, the median, is going to be 66, very close to 70. Okay. And then what we need now is our Q3, which is 84. So somewhere here, 84, and then we have our maximum, okay, which is those. So let's go ahead and see what is happening. So our minimum is here. So I'll just draw lines. That's Q1, that is Q2, that is Q3, that is your maximum. Okay, so let's quickly start by having our box. Let's make it pink. So our box is going to be something like this. Right. Then connect this one, that, and this and that. And then we need to have our median there. Okay. So that is how our box looks, roughly sketched. And yeah, I hope that it does make sense to you guys. So let's move it up. So that is how we draw our box and whisker. Okay. Someone else would have come at the top and put in these actual numbers here and say 44, 66, then 84, then 120. Okay. That's fine. Now let's go to the next question where we're looking at 2.5. So let's have a look at 2.5. So we are told the company manager decided that all employees who arrive an hour or more will be allowed to work from home for the part of the day. What percentage of employees will be allowed to work from home? Okay. So we need to figure out the people who arrive an hour or later, how many are they? Okay. Because they are saying the company manager decided, let's read again, that all employees who travel for an hour or more will be allowed to work from home for part of the day. So let's think of what is happening here. So we're looking at employees who are working 60 minutes or more. So what does this mean? It means that we're looking at these guys here. So here's our 60 minutes. And let me not use a very thick line. Let's go thin. Okay. So here's our 60. And then we just need to draw a corresponding line, which is that. Okay. And if you observe carefully, you'll see that the value that we are seeing there, it's in steps of ones. So that is 26. Okay. So 26 is the number that we're reading there. Now let's think about what is happening. So the latest person arrives at this time. So we have 26, and remember the maximum or the number of people we have, it is 60 people. So it means we need to look at the difference between the 60 of hours and the 26, and that will give us an idea of how many people are qualifying to work from home. So if you think carefully, so we are looking at the number of people who arrive an hour or later. So those who need to travel an hour or later. So it's going to be 60 minus 26, okay? And if you do 60 minus 26, you will see that you will get 24. Let me think. 60 minus 26. Sorry, it's not 24, it's 34. Okay, so we're getting 34. But the question was what percentage? So remember, they want this as a percentage. So for us to just do a percentage, that's very simple. There's a total of 60 people. So we're looking at 34 people over 60. And if you punch this as a percentage, let's see, 34 divided by 60, I am getting 56.67%. So this means that it is 56.67 employees who qualify to work from home. So we can just make a note to say 56.67% of employees. Those one here will be allowed. They will be allowed to work from home. Okay, so that is how we're supposed to answer this question, guys. I hope that it does make sense, okay? So let's go to the next page. So the difference here, let's note it, that is 34. Okay, let's go. Paste. Let's have a look at 2.6. So 2.6 reads, employees work 8 hours in a normal working day. The manager decided on the following rule for time to work from home. So they are saying, or the statement reads, an employee is allowed to work half an hour from home for each time interval travel of 20 minutes. Okay. Or part thereof. So they say on a certain day, an employee takes 110 minutes to travel to work. Calculate the number of minutes that the employee will be allowed to work from home on this day. Well, this is a very simple ratio problem, guys. So if you observe carefully, we are told that so you will be allowed to work half an hour. So meaning if we look at minutes, it will be 30 minutes. For every half an hour, for every 30 minutes you travel. So for every 30 minutes that you have above an hour, you will qualify above an hour. Let's quickly have a read again. An employee is allowed to work half an hour from home for each time interval of 20 minutes. Okay. Or thereof, or part thereof above an hour. So for every 20 minutes, for every 30 minutes you travel, you get 20 minutes of working from home. So now what we need to figure out is we have 110 minutes. So 110 minutes is simply 60 minutes. If you think carefully, plus, it's very close to 120, so plus 50 minutes. Okay, so now we need to figure out, therefore, how many hours are they going to qualify to work from home. Okay, guys, what I've done is I've calculated the answer for this question. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave you with the answer, which the answer is 90 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you homework. And your task is to figure out how we got to this 90 minutes here. Remember, this is for question 2.6. So take this as your homework. Go and give it a shot and let's see what you are going to find. So let me just put all of these in one page. Okay, let's just move this to here. Then let's just take it this side. Okay, and this, guys, brings us to the end of this lesson. And just like the many others, this is brought to you by iCampSA. So please make sure that you do like, you share with friends and your classmates. Cheers for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed.